All right, ladies, this is round two of me recording this. I'm really hoping this works. We had a little audio issue with the first one. Um, I'm looking at things here and I think it's working. So, anyway, sorry about that. But let's see here. Let me pull up my slides 1 second. Okay, here we go. All right, so it's hard to believe, but you guys have done this for 5 weeks. It probably feels like forever, but in reality, that's such a short time. That's just a blip on the radar. You know, we've all created habits and routines in our life, some good, some bad, for years. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and this has been such a great process to see so many of you have fantastic success with respect to losing weight, getting off medications, feeling, looking, performing your best. So it's been really exciting. And we have to keep perspective that 5 weeks is nothing. I mean, when you guys are looking at this, we really want to be looking at it from more like a 6 to 12 month journey. And it's a lifelong journey. You're always going to learn more. There's always another level to get to. And so today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go over, some of the different things that I could, that I work with my one-on-one coaching clients, getting them to the next level, getting them through a breakthrough, through a plateau, things like that. So, if you're somebody who's struggling a little bit, then these are going to be great tips for you. But even if you're somebody who's getting great results, some of these things are just things that you could dial in to help get you to the next level. Even with April and her great success, there was definitely, her journey, really over the last, probably 6, 8, 9 months. A lot of you guys got better results than she did in the first 5 weeks. That's for sure. So as we finish out this week, I want to talk about, these tips for kind of like getting you to the next level and things to look at as we break through plateaus and we continue to, on our journey. And on Thursday, I believe April will post, but we're going to do like a bonus Q&A session where we can go through any kind of final Q&As as we wrap up our first 6-week journey. Now, I think we're going to do more. We're working on that. Things have been a little crazy, obviously, with my health issues, and April's got a lot on her plate too. But we would love to keep doing these because we've loved spending time with you guys, and we've loved seeing the fantastic results that you guys have made. So as we dive into this, let's take a closer look at some of the steps that we can fine tune or get more detailed. Okay, so there's always more details. No matter what we're talking about, we can always get to the next level. So let's take a look at number one. So if you're struggling or if you just want to improve your results and move faster, one of the things we can do is take a closer look at your macronutrients. And so some people call them macros. Your macronutrients is a pretty big buzzword online, but all it is your proteins, carbs, and fats, and it's basically looking at what you're bringing in with respect to proteins, carbs, and fats on a daily basis. So the first thing you're going to want to track is your calories. Okay, so how many total calories are you bringing in, and then of those calories, what percentage is protein, carbs, and fats? Is it too little? Is it too many? I've seen some people's food logs where they're around 1,000 calories a day, which is pretty low. I would think most of you would probably need to be about 1,200 to 1,500, but I could be wrong. Some people may do okay with less, but if you're around 1,000 or below 1,200, I would say you probably need to step up the calories a little bit. Now, if you're getting over 2,000 calories, it just depends on your activity level. If you're working out a ton and you're very active, then you might be able to get away with that. But there's no perfect formula. Okay, I don't care what you see online. I don't care what article you read. There's no perfect formula. One size does not fit all. One, math equation that certainly does not work for everybody. So if you're looking to get to the next level, and if you've hit a plateau where you're not, getting the results you want, one of the first things I would do is consider cutting your caloric intake by about 10%. Now, that's only if you're at the higher end of calories. Like if you're in the, 1,800 to 2,000 or above let's just call it 1,500, 1,600. If you're above that, then we could look at, cutting your caloric intake by about 10%. If you're super low, let's look at bumping it up by 10% and seeing what happens there. But the bottom line is we got to tweak by small percentages your caloric intake. And then at the same time, we may actually tweak your proteins and your fats and your carbs. Protein is going to be the constant, like we've talked about before. So, protein might be anywhere from 20 to 40% of your daily caloric intake, whereas we probably want fat to be at least 50% of your caloric intake, as long as you're bringing in good fats. Now, note here, there are some people who actually do well on carbs. There are people who operate better on carbohydrates than they do fat. And so if you're eating a high-fat diet and you've been really sticking to all the things we're teaching and you're not getting results, then we may have to explore, okay, maybe we need to drop your fat intake down and we need to up your carb intake. But when I say up your carb intake, I'm talking about vegetables and salads and, maybe the occasional sweet potatoes and carrots and root and tuber vegetables, the higher glycemic vegetables. So anyway, that's the first thing, is to get to the next level, we have to take a closer look at your macros. We have to measure something, whether that be caloric intake and or your macronutrient ratio. Now, there are some people that get to a goal weight and they can basically I've had clients who, let's just say they wanted to lose 20 pounds and they lost 20 pounds and they were really strict. And then eventually they kind of wanted to be less strict. And then they figured out, like I've got one woman, for example, who figured out if she stays at 1,600 calories a day or less, for her, she continues to lose about a pound a week. Okay. So now, granted, she already met her goal weight and she's still losing about a pound a week. So she's become less strict. She's brought in some foods that we didn't originally use. So just realize that, once you hit your goal weight, we might be able to loosen things up a little bit. But if you've gotten rid of bloating and you've gotten off of medications and you're feeling, looking, and performing your best, then chances are you're never going to want to bring a lot of those foods in because they're probably going to bring the symptoms back. So bottom line is, get really detailed on the calories, get really detailed on the macros, and we probably need to make 10% adjustments either on your carbs or your fat, and minor adjustments on increasing caloric intake or decreasing caloric intake. Hopefully that makes sense. I know we've talked a lot about that, but it's very, very important. Okay, number 2, let's talk about some of the little things that make a huge difference. So you got to realize that the farther along you get in your journey, little tiny tweaks are going to make a huge difference. So like when I work with a pro athlete, somebody who eats really well, who's been on this journey for a long time, they're looking for tiny incremental things that maybe make them recover a little bit better, make them sleep a little bit better, give them just a little bit more energy. But it's tiny, tiny tweaks. It's tiny things that when we add several of these tiny things over time, they make a huge difference. And, that's kind of like what I see with April's situation. She made great strides, but it was little things. It was eliminating, daily scoops of almond butter or natural peanut butter, just nut butters, where without even thinking, you could be bringing in an extra 500 or 800 calories a day just from a bunch of nut butter. Now, there's nothing wrong with nut butter, but it's very caloric dense and it's high fat. And, if you're bringing in too much of it mindlessly, that could be too many calories and it could be hindering your weight loss. So the other thing is April stopped eating dairy. Now, some people can do fine with like cottage cheese or putting some cheese on a salad or yogurt, things like that. But most people do way better without dairy. They have less bloat, they have less skin issues, they have less just symptoms altogether, and they get better results. They lose weight faster. So, eliminating dairy is a big one. And then the other thing April did is she pushed her fasting to a longer window. And, I don't want people to get crazy where, they're fasting too long and they're starving or they're, getting kind of neurotic because you're so hungry. But, find the sweet spot. Find the sweet spot where you're getting results. You still feel good. You're feeling, looking, and performing your best. Okay. It doesn't, some people will do things where they look their best, but they're definitely not feeling good and they're not performing well. Right. So that's a big difference. Like, we don't want to sacrifice how you feel, how you perform at work or in life or working out just because you want to look good. Unless you're like, competing for a bodybuilding show or bikini contest or something like that, that might be a different story, but that's a sport, and you're agreeing to, do some things that could be unhealthy, but we don't want you to do that. We want you guys to be healthy, feel, look, and perform your best. So let's give some other examples of little things that you need to keep an eye on in order to get to the next level. Like I said, are you letting cheese sneak into meals? Are you eating out at restaurants too much? Even if you're eating like paleo or keto or Mediterranean type foods, real foods at restaurants, a lot of times it's poor quality and it's just not ideal, and it's going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause bloating. There's going to be some cross contamination. A lot of times they use poor oils that are inflammatory. Are you eating out at restaurants and getting things that have sauce on them? Or are you being too generous at home or out at restaurants with dressings? I would encourage you to just take a closer look at these things and figure out what could be hindering your progress, because you guys are working so hard. You're going all in. You're really doing this. You're sacrificing. You're changing your life, and you're creating a new lifestyle. And I would hate to see some cheeses or sauces or dressings absolutely sabotage your results. That would be horrible. And so I would highly encourage you to look at any little things that could be, sabotaging things. Number 3, we want to look at chemicals. What chemicals, or, not even chemicals, but, less than ideal ingredients might be slipping into your body. Okay. So alcohol is a big one, of course. Energy drinks, there's a lot of 0 calorie, 0 sugar energy drinks, but they are full of a bunch of chemicals, a bunch of fake sweeteners, sucralose, other things that are not ideal, emulsifiers, things like that could be hard on your gut. Okay, so we want to be careful there. We also want to be careful on our overall caffeine intake, that we don't tax our adrenals too much, mess up our sleep, cause other long-term hormonal issues. We also want to look at, like I said, not just energy drinks, but there's other low to no calorie type drinks out there with chemicals or fake sweeteners in them that we really want to be careful of, because those things could definitely be hindering your progress. I would highly encourage you to drink water, to drink tea, and to drink coffee black, as much as possible. And that's going to get you the biggest results. Now, when we look at sweeteners and creamers, we also have to be careful. Probably one of the safer sweeteners is going to be raw stevia, which is technically sugar-free and for the most part, fairly natural. Creamers, of course, we can use some, coconut and some almond milk creamers, but we got to be careful because it's very easy to get those things where there's a couple hidden sugars, just a couple chemicals, other ingredients that are not ideal, especially emulsifiers, which can disrupt the gut. Okay, another big one that I think we've mentioned but we haven't talked about a ton is toxic home cleaning products. You got to realize that if you're using bleach and toxic cleaning products, and ladies, I know they work, and I know some of you are probably meticulous about your kitchens and your bathrooms and you want them very clean. I totally get it. I'm kind of a neat freak myself, but those things are getting into your body, getting into your skin, and could be wreaking havoc on your health. So we have to be really, really careful. And I would encourage you to move towards natural cleaning products, natural beauty products, natural deodorant, things like that. One of the big ones that I switched, it's been years, but made a huge difference for me, is dishwasher detergent. So we probably don't think about this. And again, we want our dishes clean, of course, but we got to be careful because most detergents have toxic stuff in them to clean the dishes. And, it's activated at high heats. And so that stuff leaves a residue, even if it's small, leaves residue on the plates, the forks, the knives, the cups, the bowls, the things that we use. And then especially if we use a microwave and we put those things in the microwave, it activates those chemicals right into our food. And so that's one thing that you have to be really careful of is toxic dishwasher detergent. And, making sure, especially if you use a microwave, you really got to be careful with that one, because you can certainly, get into some trouble there. Okay, let's move on here to number 4. Okay, so number 4, this might sound kind of elementary. These next couple might sound elementary, but they're so freaking important. I can't, stress enough how important these are. I've worked with people for, you know, over 15 years on this stuff. I've been obsessed with this stuff for over 2 decades. And the more I learn, the more advanced I get, the more important I realize that you got to stick with the basics. And so, sweating, obviously in the summer, it's easy if we're working out outside, we're walking, we're gardening, doing other housework outside. But I really would encourage you guys to, try to get outside and do some workouts and sweat, get some air, get some sun, not sunburn, but get some sun. And sweating is very important. So there's a ton of newer studies on what's called heat shock proteins and the power of healing. And they can even help us with weight loss. So warming up your inner organs, detoxing your organs, getting those toxins out of your body. There's some very anti-aging, anti-disease properties to raising the body temperature. I mean, you think about it, I've been suffering with some health issues recently with severe fevers. Well, just warming up the body and sweating out toxins is obviously one of the natural things that our body does if we're sick or if we have an infection or we're having a problem. So it would make sense that, on a regular basis, even when we're well, that we continue to, sweat. And, if you're not a big sweater, you're not a big workout person, then I would definitely encourage you to try to get into a sauna at least a couple times a week. If you can get into an infrared sauna, that's amazing. If not, just go get into a normal sauna like at a gym that you might go to. And, again, it'd be great to do it a couple times a week, but if that's not realistic, just do it when you can. Even if it's once a month, like get in there, sweat. One of the things that I do, I call it the poor man sauna. Sometimes after I work out outside and my car's been parked in the hot sun for an hour, I will, the car's super hot. I mean, it's 85, 90 degrees outside and the car's got to be 10, 15 degrees warmer inside because the windows have been shut. I have black interior. So I literally will just sit in my car and close the door. I'm already sweating and I just start sweating profusely. And I call it the poor man sauna because it's like you're sitting in a sauna, and I'll just put a towel on my seat and let myself sweat it out for another 5, 10 minutes or so. Sometimes I'll drive home like that. And, it's just one other way to sweat it out and to make some progress. Okay, let's look at number 5. And this is probably the most elementary of them all. But, April's been posting some amazing workouts. There's tons of variety, HIIT training, strength training, core, yoga, mobility, flexibility. Her workouts have been fantastic. And it's, very important that we all move as often as possible. Now, some of you are crushing the workouts. Some of you are struggling with them. Some of you aren't even really working out much at all. And, that's okay. Wherever you're at, we just want to move you in the right direction. We want to make progress. And one of the things that I would tell you is if you're not working out, or even if you are, in the last year or two, one thing that I've really encouraged my weight loss clients to do is walk. You just got to walk, get out there and walk. Even if it's, you start with 20 minutes a couple times a week, work your way up to 30, 40 minutes, 2-3 times a week. But walks are very healthy for fat burning, very healthy to get some air and some sun. It seems so simple, but I promise you it's great for weight loss. Okay, so number 6, 2 weeks ago, we had April did a great presentation on sleep. I talked about some of my tips for sleep. But here's the thing, like this is so freaking important. It's probably the number one blocking factor that I see that people have is they're just not sleeping, and so is that from a hormonal issue, a blood sugar issue? Is it a stress issue? Is it you can't turn off your mind? Some of it might be outside of your control, and that's okay. But the healthier we get, the more of these things that we do correctly, the better, I foresee you feeling, looking, and performing. And sleep is one of those things that it's super anabolic. You got to do it. It's going to help you get leaner. I promise you. And so I just cannot stress enough how important this is. And if you haven't already, one of the documents that I've created that's in the group documents in Facebook is called a deep sleep checklist. and it's a document that has a bunch more details. But let me just talk about a couple. I know some of you have been working on this and have been making progress, which is fantastic. First of all, you want to sleep in a pitch black room. You want to get your room as dark as possible. You cannot have light coming in and, even through the cracks. Like your body senses that, your skin senses that, and it's very tough to get into a deep sleep when that's the case. Okay. The next thing is you really want to get rid of any electronics or blinking lights. A lot of people have, just a clock on the side of their bed, or alarm clock, or TVs or DVD players or different electronics that are plugged in, and there's a little blinking light, even a smoke alarm. Obviously you should have smoke alarms in your house, but maybe you put a little piece of tape or something over the green or whatever light on the smoke alarm in your room, just to make sure that you're not seeing that light. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it makes a difference. And, I changed all this stuff with my sleep back in like 2009, 2010, and it made a huge difference. It's been fantastic. And then you really want the temperature to be cool. A cool temperature is definitely going to help us get into a deeper sleep. And then I'm a big fan of like having a fan or having some sort of background white noise to help you, just kind of calm your mind and mesmerize you and help get rid of any other noises that might startle you or wake you up. So those are some of my best tips, but I'm telling you, ladies, if you're struggling, we got to look at sleep. Okay. So now this final one, my final tip, if you want to get to the next level, or if you're not seeing the results you want, you could consider getting some functional medicine lab testing. So a lot of you guys are medical professionals. You know a ton about traditional medicine, which is fantastic. Right now I have a weird acute health issue, so that's probably a good time for me to look at traditional medicine and get traditional medicine testing. And I've had MRIs and CT scans and ultrasounds and all kinds of stuff like that, which is amazing. Modern medicine is amazing. However, modern medicine and traditional medicine, most of the time it's all reactive, right? Like I came up with something really rare, and so it's now the doctors are all reactive trying to figure out what's wrong. Now, let's just say that you're really healthy. Let's just say you've lost 20 pounds, you're feeling, looking, performing your best, but this is part of your life and you're on this journey and you want to get to the next level. Well, that would be a great time to get some functional medicine lab testing. Or let's just say you've hit a plateau and you can't lose any more weight. That would be a great time to get some functional medicine lab testing. So functional medicine lab testing is looking at, okay, your hormones. It's looking at your gut health. It's looking at inflammatory markers. It's looking at maybe some toxicity. And it's looking at these things to see, okay, are you optimal? How can we get you optimal? And if you're not, then it's using either, traditional medicine or, functional medicine or alternative medicine, which might be diet, lifestyle, supplementation. And of course, we're doing a lot with diet, lifestyle, and supplementation to improve these things. But sometimes you do need, something from a doctor to help you get to the next level. So, if you're doing everything that we taught in this program and you're just not getting the results you deserve, then I would highly recommend getting some advanced functional medicine lab testing. If you're in Omaha, I can refer you to a doctor in Bellevue who's great, who takes insurance. So when I talk about, these different things like hormones, for example, your sex hormones, you're going to look at your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone, different things like that to just see where your sex hormones are, and then your thyroid hormones. Now, most traditional medicine is just going to look at like your TSH, where a functional medicine doctor is going to look at your T3, your T4, your reverse T3, your thyroid antibodies, a lot of different things to see if your conversion is good, or to see if you're having any sort of autoimmune inflammatory response that's not allowing receptor sites to use the hormones. There's a lot of different things that are pretty advanced that a traditional doctor is just not going to catch. So hormones is a big one. Gut health, do you have gut permeability, or is the bacteria in your gut off? Now, you could also have a pathogen. You could have something like Candida yeast overgrowth, or SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, or you could just have, too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. But a lot of times the gut testing has to be done with stool tests, and they can look at, do you have any pathogens, whether that be parasite, bacteria, fungal yeast, etc., or is there just dysbiosis where there's not the right amounts of good and bad bacteria in your gut, and we need to change that. So that's gut health. That's usually stool test. Hormones, usually blood test. Occasionally hormones or saliva tests, but most of the time it's going to be a blood test. And then inflammatory markers. That's usually going to be a blood test, and you're going to look at different things that could be cardiovascular based. They could be more systemic based. They could be more cytokine and immune based. But functional medicine doctors are going to be able to look at some of those inflammatory markers. Now, I know that a lot of you guys have improved those because you're getting off of Prilosec, you're getting off of different antihistamines and things like that. That's a great sign. It's meaning that your immune system's balancing out. There's less inflammatory, less immune responses, and so you don't need those drugs. That's fantastic, and that's all due towards diet and lifestyle. That's the same thing that happened to me in 2004 and 2005. So that's a great sign. And if that's already happening in the first 5 weeks, then the beauty of this is the longer you do it, probably the better you can get and the more calm you can get your immune system and lower inflammation. Now, the last one is possibly toxicity. That could be things like heavy metals or any sort of, chemicals or toxins in your body that you don't want there. Sometimes those are done through urine testing, sometimes through blood testing. But that's a possibility too, especially if, weight loss is a challenge. If you have high toxicity, your body is going to be hanging on to water because it's trying to dilute that toxicity. And so that's why a lot of people, hang on to water who have high toxicity. So, all right, ladies, I hope this helps. These are 7 steps, on how to get to the next level, how to break through plateaus. I would love for you to examine these things. And if you have any questions, please, please, please post them in the Facebook group below this post, and I'd be happy to answer them. I know April and I, we will post a link and a time, but I think on Thursday we're going to do kind of a bonus final Q&A as we wrap up this 6-week challenge. But the group is going to be alive forever. I know we're looking at doing more of these. We'd love for you to continue to participate. We'd love for you to bring more people into this. Our goal is to someday have a huge community of people that are all on the same page where you can go to for support and accountability and, to problem solve and just to have a community that can help you with this long term. So I want to congratulate you guys on all the hard work and all the great results. Thanks for letting me be a little part of this journey. And we'll see you guys in the Facebook group, and check out our link for Thursday. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great week.